Hello friends, I am Shelly Clough and I am so excited for today's video. We are going to be making some cute little Valentine's gift tags. I'm going to walk you through how to make all different kinds of tags. So let's go ahead and walk through the supplies we've got and we will dive into the video. So for supplies today, I have my starter palette. I have the swatch card of this is linked in the description box. I also sell these on my website. If you want the exact set that I'm using, that is linked below as well. For a brush, I'm going to start out with a Princeton Neptune brush. I may switch it up as we go, but this is what I'm going to start out with. It is a size 6, and then I just have some water, and for paper, I'm going to be using this Canson XL watercolor paper. I'm also going to be using a variety of punches. So I have some heart punches that I'll be using. I also have a circle punch, as well as a hole punch, and a variety of twine. So you don't have to have everything I'm using, but anything that I do use, I will link below. So if there's anything that you want to grab as well, that will be down there. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, for getting started, we are going to start with something really simple. We're going to start with these little tags that we can make with a watercolor gradient. It's going to let us be playful with our colors, and the more playful, the more fun these little tags will turn out. So let's get going. So first I'm going to start with this Princeton Neptune brush. It's a size 6. I'm going to give it a rinse in my water. And then I'm going to come into a couple of my favorite pink colors. I've got quinacridone magenta and opera rose. Both of these are really fun pinks, which is part of why I put them in this palette, because I love them. And I'm just going to get a couple puddles of those going. I'm also going to get a little puddle of lemon yellow going, because I'm going to use that for my gradient as well. So now that I've got these colors kind of ready, all I'm going to do is start making some little puddles of color. So I'm going to start with just some water. It's got a little pink tint to it from my jar here. And I'm just sort of smearing that color around. I don't really need to be precise or anything. Really what I'm going for is some color variation. So I just switched from quinacridone to opera rose. And I'm just sort of dancing those colors around. Now I'm going to grab some of that lemon yellow, merge that over here, just sort of trying to work quickly so everything stays wet and I can sort of drop some extra color here and there. So I'm just going to make some dots with my brush, dipping right into the pigment here and sort of adding some little bits of color so that I can get some fun texture on these tags. And I'm going to keep going, some opera rose over here. And the more you have sort of some visual interests, like these little blooms that are happening, the more these tags will look homemade and kind of special. So it's actually fun to have it look kind of crazy when we're painting, because that will end up making a pretty neat looking tag at the end. So I'm just going to take some of this hot pink opera rose and sort of dash that around. And this lemon yellow works so nicely with pinks to create a really pretty peachy tone. So see that spot where it's fusing there? So nice. Bring in some more quinacridone. And I probably should have taped my paper down because it's getting quite buckled now, but that's okay. We're still going to be able to punch some little tags out of this and it won't be a big deal. Again, just dropping in some little bits of color here and there. So this area started to dry a little bit. I'm just going to take a clean, damp brush and sort of soften the edge on that a bit. I'm also going to do another section here with some reds. So I've got my pinks done. Now I'm going to come into this cadmium red color, get a little puddle of that going. And then I'm also going to go into alizarin crimson. Alizarin is more of a burgundy red. Okay, now we're going to have some fun with these. I'm going in with that alizarin, just dropping in a lot of pigment, working really wet, just sort of plunking my brush into the jar to grab lots of color. And we are just having fun. We're just having a good time with this. I'm just sort of merging some of that cadmium red and the alizarin crimson. Trying to get some fun sort of textures happening there. So I just went straight into the pigment, just sort of wiggling my brush around to get some fun contrast happening. And I do want some lighter areas and then some darker areas. So when I have the lighter areas, then I will come and sort of drop in bits of that heavier color, and then I can get those nice pockets of dimension on the final tag. Okay, I think I am pretty happy with that for now. I'm going to let this dry all the way, and then we are going to punch some little hearts out of this. Look how fun this is all drying up here right now. I'm excited. All right, this is all dry now, and you can see we've got some really fun textures happening in here and some really fun color bleeds. So now I'm going to take, this is a little bit smaller of a heart punch than I showed you the first time. I think it's 2 inches or so across. And what I like to do is hold it upside down like this. So I'm not holding it this way, hold it this way so I can see what I'm punching. And first I'm going to try to see if I like any of the way that these tags look. Sometimes capturing kind of that half and half look is really fun. So I think I kind of like this right there. See how you can kind of see what we're picking. And look at that cute tag with that fun sort of raw edge. And then I'll show you a trick here in a minute. Like that one too is really fun. I think now I'm going to make a little slice on this paper so that it's easier for me to get to the rest of this area. Just gonna grab my paper trimmer here. I'll link this down below as well. I love this one because it also has a scoreboard in it. So I can score like cards that I'm trimming down. I'm just gonna trim this off real quick. Let's see if we can find a cute one here. Ooh, that's kind of fun. Look at that. Pretty. Let's see if we can fit one more in there. Look at that. This is so fun, you guys. Okay. Now I can go ahead and get full color bleed on these heart punches, or I can, still grab some of that raw edge. I think I'm liking the full color. So we're going to punch some of these out. That one will go like that. Okay, look how pretty these are turning out. So cute. All right, let's grab some of these red ones now. Kind of like that with the little half on, half off. Come here and get some red. Let's see. Ooh, look how fun that looks there. It's like a galaxy pattern or something. Okay, now I'm going to grab one of my bigger heart punches. This one here is my medium. Doesn't say how wide it is. I would say like 2.5 inches or so. And we'll punch some of those. These are so fun. Okay, this one, I think I'm going to trim this one more time. I'm just going to grab some scissors so I can get in there a little closer. Okay, now I've got full heart that I can do. Look how pretty it looks there. And over here, we can do a full red heart. And we've maybe got room, like one more over here. Let's see what we can fit. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, Should we see if we can fit one more little one in here? We have so many tags. My kids are going to have such cute tags for their Valentine's treats. Okay, look at all these fun hearts that we ended up with. These are so cute. Now I can punch them and add a little string to them. So when I do the heart tag, I like to do my hole on just one of the sort of sides of the heart. And then I have this red and white twine that I used for Christmas as well. I'm going to use that on this one. Just going to trim a little of that off. What I do is I loop it in half, fold it over, and then I stick that loop through the hole. Stick the tails through the loop. And then I can tie it onto a present or something. So there are those cute little gradient heart tags. How fun some of these are. All the texture we can see on it. Look how pretty. This was a lot of fun. That one. Ooh, and this one. Look at that one. So fun. Okay. Now, I also think this would be really fun to throw in a little bit of gold on there if you still have some of your gold paint from Christmas. So just another idea for you. And then these are, because they're kind of a solid color, you could write right on the front or you can just write on the back of them. Okay, now I'm going to show you some of the floral gift tags that I've made. Okay, so I'm back with a fresh sheet of paper, and now what I'm going to do is make some flowers that I can then turn into tags. So I like to do roses for these. I also have some where I use this little, I call it the M flower. It's in my video on the easiest watercolor flowers if you want to learn this one as well. But we're just going to do some roses for this, and then we also have to make sure and do greenery, because when you can capture both on the tag, it looks extra cute. So I am going to, just sticking with my Princeton Neptune size 6 brush, I'm going to go into this quinacridone magenta color. And I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson just to pull it some more to the red side. And I want that pretty concentrated for starting my rose. So what I'm doing is I'm swirling my brush in there so that all my bristles are wet with color. But then I sort of pat my brush off on the palette a few times, and that gets rid of any big bulky droplets of water so that they're not going to make a mess on my paper. So I'm going to start kind of near an edge, and for a rose, I'm going to make a few little marks in the center here. Doesn't have to be anything perfect, but just a few little like miniature layers for the center of my rose. And then I'm going to start laying little petals around that center. So, and the petals have a little bit of a taper to them. So you can see they come to a point on the ends, and I'm just sort of laying them on top of one another here. And every time, if I end up with a couple of petals like this, I sort of put a little blanket over them. And then if I have a gap, like that's kind of the bigger gap, I'm just going to make a mark in there to sort of fill some of it up. Just layering these petals. And then as I work my way outward, I want to add a little more water to my brush and make my strokes wider and a little bit lighter. I'm trying to make sure I don't end up with too much white space in there. Okay, and as I work my way out, I'm doing a lot of overlapping. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Just going to add a little extra pigment to this center area so that the inside of my rose, the color is nice and concentrated, and then it sort of fades out as it works outward. Because in a real rose, those petals that are all tight in the center, they really do make the color look a little bit stronger. So there's a rose, and I'm just going to do a couple of those. I might change and do one in alizarin crimson. to have a variety here. So again, just some little marks in the middle. And then I'm going to start laying some petals around. With roses, you sort of want just enough white space to where you can sort of see the shapes. So if you fill everything in, you just sort of lose it all. But if you have too much white space, then it can be hard to, it feels a little disjointed. So it's sort of a little dance between too much and not enough white space. Okay, and then I'm going to drop a little extra pigment in the center there. I added a little quinacridone to my brush when I went to drop this color in. Just going to take a clean, damp brush to help that color move around. And look how fun, as these dry, you start getting some of those fun textures. I really like that. Now I'm going to do one that's a little bit more opera rose with a little bit of quinacridone magenta. So I'm just spacing these out enough so that I have enough room to make some greenery around them. Okay, now that we've got some really vibrant colors, let's make one that's a little bit more of a dusty pink. So I'm going to just turn my paper, and I have this puddle of quinacridone magenta. I'm going to add a little bit of opera rose to it, and then I'm going to come over here to burnt umber and add some brown to that. Brown is going to really help mellow out that super saturated pink color. I'm just going to add a little alizarin crimson and just a touch of lemon yellow. Kind of get that woody brown color, or that woody pink color, I mean. Sort of like a dusty rose. A bit more of this one. Okay, let's do that. Again, I'm just doing my little center marks. And then start some little layers around it. Sometimes it's fun to grab a little bit of a different color on your brush, so you end up with some variation in your petals. So I grabbed a little bit of opera rose on my brush when I dipped back in. And often as I get to the end of a rose, I'll do some really little petals just to sort of balance out wherever it seems like it needs it. Tapping some extra color here in the middle. Now I'm going to add some greenery. Okay, for greenery, if you've been here a while, you know that one of my favorite greeneries is Viridian Green mixed with burnt umber. So I'm just going to mix some of that up here. And this one, you want to add quite a bit of burnt umber to it. Otherwise, it just will look a little too saturated once it gets on the paper. So once you think it's enough brown, add just a little more. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing some leaves. I am going to do a little flick and then kind of a football shape here for my leaf. And then I like to make a second leaf a little smaller. And I like to leave little slivers of white on my leaves. It gives them a little bit of dimension. I'm going to do that over here as well. A little flick and some leaves. And then when it comes to leaves, you can also make just little marks. If I sort of place my brush around, little bits of giving the impression of greenery to help fill out the space around my flowers. Do some over here. It's sort of, I love making things like tags and bookmarks because if you have any mess ups, you just know that that's the part you're going to chop off later. I also have some Valentine cards that I have planned that we will hopefully do in the next day or two here. Look how pretty that green is. Again, just some little flecks of greenery here and there to fill things out. Okay, now my last rose over here. And mix a little bit more green. All right, feel pretty good about that greenery. Now I'm going to let it all dry and then we can get our punch out and make some tags out of this. Really quick before I punch, sometimes after your watercolor dries, it will lose some dimensions. Like this one dried really nice with a deep center and then a lighter outside, but this one feels a little flat to me. So I am going to just add some color to the center there. Just going to take some alizarin crimson and some burnt sienna, or maybe even burnt umber, and add, just sort of go over this center area with a few strokes to bring that dimension back. Just tapping some color in right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this opera rose piece. And I'm going to get some quinacridone mixed with opera rose and just add a little bit to the center here. Just going over mostly what I've already painted and adding a second layer to build up some of that color. And if it feels too stark when you do that, give your brush a rinse and a dab, and then use that damp brush to sort of soften those bits of color that you have laid down. And we'll go ahead and do that over here as well. I'm gonna add a little bit of Payne's Gray to that middle, maybe even a little bit of quinacridone. A few little marks. This one's pretty dark, but it just didn't have the washout. Okay. Now I'm going to let that second layer dry and then we can punch. Okay, so now they are all dry. For these tags, I want to use the really big heart. This is a 3.5-inch heart punch. So this is what that tag shape looks like. And I am just going to kind of slide this on here. And I like to try to get a portion of the center of a rose and then some of the greenery in there. So I think, let's see, maybe I'll chop this one first. Ooh, I think that's pretty. Right there. Pretty tag. Okay, now I'm going to come over to this one. That's pretty. This one. And now I can get back over here. Do that. Okay. Here are my pretty rose tags that I've made. And again, we can just do our little hole punch and add some twine to those. And look how pretty. All right, there's my tags, all with their strings on. I have a few different colors of strings that I went with just for a little fun and variety. But I think these turned out so pretty. They would look so nice on like a solid color, pink bag or white bag. A beautiful Valentine's gift. Okay, now I have one more really simple tutorial I'll show you for another option of tag. Okay, the last kind of tag I want to show you are these really simple heart tags. So let's dive in and work on those. Okay, so for these heart tags, I am just going to switch to a size 6 Aqua Elite brush. It has a little bit daintier of a tip on it, and it will help me be more precise with these thin little heart lines. So I'm going to start, I'm just going to work with some of the colors I've already got here on my palette. So I've got, just some pinks left over from before, and you want to make sure that they're pretty watery. So part of the fun of these hearts is that they are fairly translucent and they're just going to sort of blend with each other. And so we want to make sure that our color is nice and watery. And I'm just going to start by painting some little hearts. And I like to paint mine kind of tall and thin, little supermodel hearts. And I'm just going to grab kind of a peachy tone here. I mixed lemon yellow with opera rose. And I'm going to try to do this while it's still wet. I'm going to go over this first heart and even just tap a little extra color where those meet up. And I'm going to keep doing this around my paper, sort of alternating the colors that I'm using. And letting them overlap with each other. And just know if you mess some of them up, you can just not use that part for a tag. So this one was kind of fun. This pink was more concentrated, and then I went over it with this really light color and then got that pretty sort of fusion over there. So a little bit of contrast and variety is nice. I grab some alizarin crimson. And just know that the imperfections make this look more homemade and special. So if it doesn't look perfect, that is okay. That's going to be why people love it. Just went in with kind of a lot of opera rose right there to get the color nice and concentrated. And then I'm going to go almost pure yellow right next to it. So we get some fun fusions happening there. You can make some a little bigger. Make a little one here. May even throw in some purple here. There's a purple lake. Put it over here. I'm going to do some full red hearts here. I just want to create little moments of overlap. So here I just wanted to make sure I had some contrast. A lot of these colors were sort of looking the same, so I wanted to add a really light tone right there. Okay, so now we're gonna let this dry and then we will punch some little tags out of this. Okay, these are all dry, and now for these tags, I am gonna use this circle punch. It's a 2.5-inch punch. I love this one, and I will link that for you down below as well. And then we're just gonna see if we can find some cute tags in here. I think I like that one. That's that. Come here. Love that. Well, I'm just going to trim here and get to that last one. Okay, I think those are pretty fun. Now we're just going to add some string to them. Okay, there are our cute little circle hearts. You can see some of these fun little points of fusion and some of our watercolor that just gives them some character and makes them sort of playful and fun. So I love those. And let's go ahead and do a recap of all the tags that we made. All right, take a look at all these cute and fun Valentine's tags that we made today. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Feel free to drop ideas that you would love to see me paint down below in the comment box. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.